I've been using GlassFish for 12 years now, I think. Actually, when Java was only 5 years old, people were sending resumes from I have 10 years experience with Java. It's amazing how the concept of time is not always very well perceived. So very briefly, let me explain. The company I work for is a small company in Belgium called LodgON, and we focus on social networking software. And we have a product that we use in most of our projects. It's called DaliCore, and in one line, DaliCore adds social networking capabilities on top of Java EE6. It's quite popular these days. Every project you need to connect with, for example, Facebook. You should be able to log in with your Google account, and you need bidirectional communication with Twitter using OAuth. So, and that's something that's not part of Java EE yet, but that we have in DaliCore. Typical applications are, for example, vote applications. In Belgium, we have a joint venture with a company that does vote predictions, and then people can do some tests and see what party should I vote on. That's quite high traffic. We have, for example, 500,000 users a day is very common for these sites. And we have social networking sites as well for niche groups, and common is that all these social networking sites should also connect with existing social networks. The days that everyone wanted to create his own copy of Facebook, those days are almost gone, but most people want their niche market, but they want to connect with the big players in order to use the viral aspect of those networks. We use DaliCore and GlassFish also in a spam product which is called Mollem. We'll briefly show some figures about this on the next slide. The technologies that we use in the Java EE technologies are mainly JPA and JAX-RS, and then Jersey. I mentioned Jersey specifically because Jersey is more than just JAX-RS. It's also Jersey client, and the OAuth contrib are very important to us. And we're using GlassFish since day one, and honestly I don't remember, it was announced at JavaOne 2006? 2005, and the same evening I wanted to work with it. No, was the code already released then? Yeah, actually the reason that we started working with GlassFish is that before there was, as John mentioned, the Sun One app server and the SIAS, the Sun Java application server, and then before it was iPlanet. And there were many times that I said, oh, if only I had this code, then I could debug this easier, or then I could fix this. And then when it was announced that GlassFish was going to be the reference implementation of open source, I was so happy. Okay, so Mollem, where we use GlassFish, is a spam service. If you go to mollem.com, you can subscribe on it. It's a freemium model. It tracks, it helps sites protecting against spam, for example, forums and every user-generated content. So, for example, Sony Music is using this on most of their network sites. Dev.twitter.com is using it on their forums, because actually 95% of the comments on public forums are spam. So Mollem filters this. So all comments before they appear on the site are first sent to Mollem, and that's currently we block about 650,000 spam messages a day. That's a round number, so that's why it's about. And Mollem also serves about 1 million captchas a day. So if Mollem is not very sure that Mollem thinks, well, this content might be spam, then it's going to present the user with a captcha. And most of the content is spam, but bots are clever, and so Mollem is not sure. So that's why we send captchas. So that means about 10 million requests a day, and that's 115 requests a second. We have 2 data centers with Mollem, but that's mainly because of geographical reasons. Because if you want to enter comment on a site, the site first have to communicate to the GlassFish server and back, and maybe it has to retrieve a CAPTCHA. So we don't want to have transatlantic round trips. So that's why we have different data centers in different parts. Each data center has 2 nodes. That's mainly because we use Cassandra, which is a NoSQL solution where we split the data on 2 nodes. So that actually means that we have 4 GlassFish instances, but the load can be handled by 1 instance. So we have, first of all, data center redundancy. So if one server in a data center goes down, that's no problem, the other takes over. If a whole data center goes down, that's also not a problem, because we have something that's called client-side load balancing, and the clients will then contact the other data center. Of course, with some delay, because the first going to try the downed data center. So that's it's a high traffic example. And important to notice, especially during the holidays, we had 99.999% uptime for all our servers. So it's only when we do something that we might have limited downtime. So as long as we don't touch the code or the operations, it's working. So that's actually my I try to say that I don't have to work too hard, because that decreases stability. So Vibe is a social network in Belgium about all the Belgian musicians or Flemish musicians are on that network, and they have their audio portfolio uploaded there, and it's used by the major concerts in Belgium for having their program created. For example, the biggest organizers in Belgium, they want to have a concert, and they want to give a young band the opportunity to play. Then these bands have to use Vibe to register to upload their content, and to say why they are cool. And so again, important, it's all linked with Facebook, Twitter, Google Connect, and so on. So that's that's another part where we use GlassFish. I could go on, because we're almost exclusively using GlassFish in all our projects. The final, very important remark is that authentication is key for us. If we talk about social networking, the concept of users, which in my opinion is still lacking in the Java Enterprise specification, it's very important, and therefore authentication is extremely important. And the Jersey or outcome trip is really a heaven's gift. And that's I think, a community-based contribution, well, sort of. Permission management is also key. Okay. So what works for us? Grizzly kernel. It's amazing, and I think kudos to Jean-François and all the people that worked on Grizzly. But it's we did some tests on Amazon, and we actually ran almost against the limits of the Amazon load balance, which is, I think, 15,000 requests a second that one load balancer can dispatch, and we had one server behind the load balancer, and it was dealing with those requests. So Grizzly is really amazing technology. I still don't get it completely. Jean-François has a presentation about it with all the layers, and it's pretty complex, but it's brilliant. Scalability, the horizontal scalability in 3.1.1. Really use 3.1.1 instead of 3.1 because it has much more bug fixes. REST implementation is also very important because well, and that's the Jersey client. You should not only have your users communicate to you, but your application should communicate with the rest of the world as well. And then finally, what works in GlassFish, that's the fact that it's open source. So it's relatively easy to find the bottleneck, to find why is my application slow. If you can only handle 12,000 requests a second, for example, you can take a stack trace. My favorite command in GlassFish is opt GlassFish bin isadmin generate JVM report -- type is threads. And that's something that I do on every server in production. So if someone says, "Oh, the server is slow," they the people that work with me, they know that they first have to do generate JVM report minus thread. And then you see what the HTTP threads are doing, and then you see, okay, most of the time they are doing this. You go to the GlassFish code, you find the bottleneck, you fix it, you send Alexi a mail, like, this was a bit slow, but you can enhance it by that, and you wait for the next release. So, how can it improve? I think JMS, obviously, I think everyone forgot JMS when they were doing Java EE6, but good enough people realized it, and it's going to be in Java EE7, and I don't know, are the spec leads for JMS here? It's okay. It's very. I'm really looking forward to an improved JMS, because it was time that we got that updated. EGB timer is also something I think that can be improved. The persistence. I want a timer that does a fire and forget, and that doesn't do persistence, because if I restart the application and the old timer is still there, so I think there's some room for improvement there. We will take that offline. And then caching is also something that can be improved. Actually, the technical issues are, I think, covered, but in GlassFish. But what I think that can mainly be improved is the inter-GlassFish user communication, because we're mainly talking about GlassFish as a product and how it can be improved. But I think, and again, if you're interested, we can also take that offline. There's some room for more standardization. For example, in the social networking area where we are active in, we see that there are many companies like us that are spending 80% of their time doing something similar. So I fully understand that the Java EE standard cannot specify how you have to connect with Facebook, for example. But I think GlassFish as a community, people with similar problems should be able to get together and to create some, to exchange some ideas, and maybe to create some informal standard. And maybe if enough people and company are interested, that might become then a JCP. But I think we need something between just two developers that work on the same thing and the JCP. And I personally think that the GlassFish community, with the low barriers between developers and users, is a perfect place for sharing ideas about technologies in a specific domain. That's it.